Warning: the following content may not be suitable for all listeners and contains crude humor that may be offensive to some. Listener discretion is advised. This is Satire is Not Dead. Welcome back, everybody, to Satire is Not Dead. I'm Harvey, your host. We're back with more personal stories, with satirical articles, and some real news that could be mistaken for satire. This program is brought to you by Cinescape Media. You can learn more about this program and their other programs by visiting cinescape.media. Now, my last podcast was the Tuesday before the hurricane made landfall here, Hurricane Laura. And I recorded that as of that Tuesday. It's been 2.5 weeks. It seems like 6 months. The hurricane was shaping up to be a strong 3, possible 4. Well, I got up that next Wednesday morning intending to go to work and do what I could, and then we were going to leave around noon. And I looked at the futurecast, or the current forecast when I got up. I got up at like 5 a.m. And it had gone from a Category 2 in the Gulf of Mexico, jumped to a 4. It was going to go from a 2 to a 4 very quickly. And I don't know if you know about this region. The Gulf of Mexico's water is very hot, and this fuels hurricanes like it's nobody's business. And so they were forecasting that it was going to make landfall at a very strong 4, possibly 5, and it ended up making landfall as a just borderline 5, and really just a few miles per hour in the wind. The wind speed and all that doesn't matter whether you call it a 4 or 5. So I got up and I saw that, and I decided that I told my wife, I said, let's just get up, get our stuff together, and get out of here, because 4, borderline 5 is it's deadly. I mean, most assuredly, it's going to destroy a lot of property. So we leave. We drive north. We had our kids and grandkids in the Shreveport area, which is one of the larger cities in Louisiana, and we had reserved a hotel room where our family was, so we could all be together. And so we drive up and get to the hotel, and it's not a 5-star by any means. It wasn't a dump, but we went to a hotel that was pet friendly, because we have a Shih Tzu, and for her, I remember hearing stories way back for Hurricane Rita. People left their pets in the house in their crates, and it's just, that's torture. And we weren't going to do that. So we get to this hotel. And, when you go to a hotel sometimes, like if you're on vacation, there's, it's the vacation season, and it's full of people with kids, and, it's at night, you're trying to sleep, and people let their kids run up and down the halls, and it's noisy, and they're slamming doors and all that shit, because it's vacation. We went to this hotel, and we got there before it was full, and it was very eerie. Checked in. Well, we had to go kill some time before we checked in, and Shreveport has some pretty nice areas to go and just browse. They have this complex. It's almost like its own neighborhood of I can't remember if it's the boardwalk, the riverwalk. I don't remember. But there are stores, there's theaters, restaurants, and a large area. And this was the first time that I really understood the virus, the COVID-19 thing affecting big cities. We went to this place, and it was completely shut down. Everything, nothing open. There was a Bass Pro Shop nearby. We went mostly just to show the kids the fish and get the hell out of the heat because it was hot. Um, but I'm starting to understand in the larger cities people's frustration with this, virus thing. But regardless, um, went back to the hotel and checked in and realized that most of the people there were coming in were evacuees, just like we were. And it was it was the polar opposite of a hotel full of vacationing people. Everyone was very quiet, almost solemn, very polite to one another. There's always one or two people that act like jerks, but maybe that's just people, not doing well under impending doom. Uh, but we went from our room at one point. I went from my room into the lobby. I was going out to get something out of my car, and these monitors all over the lobby and the eating area of the hotel, which was shut down too because of the virus. Couldn't even get anything to eat in a hotel. Um, had the Weather Channel playing. These monitors were playing the Weather Channel constantly, and you'd walk through, and there's these groups of people just standing there with their arms crossed, staring at it. And it was just that was how it was. And that night, Wednesday night, it was quiet. I mean, no one was, you know, loud. No one was like in a very jovial mood. Everyone was watching the Weather Channel, including me, because it was going to make landfall Wednesday night at the coast. And so we were there, and then the following day, everyone got up and everyone was just trying to make phone calls to their homes, not to their homes, to people who decided to stay, and asking can you possibly get by my house and see how it did, how it held up or whatever. And it was just really just a depressing thing. And, I don't blame them. I want to know myself. I knew we would do okay because of where it made landfall, but we had family members that were closer to the center of the storm, and we knew that they would probably not fare well. Their home. But everyone was just trying to get in touch with people to say, can you go take a picture of my house, and that kind of stuff. And then there were people in the lobby. They would sit around, and you could tell when someone found out, got some bad news. It was just awful. And this storm was, the worst. And I'm not going to try and quote however many years, because but it's been a long time since there was one this deadly. And it was a long day. And then we got it up in Bossier City later Thursday afternoon. And it was, rain and strong winds. Nothing, catastrophic. But the hotel did lose power. And they have a generator, but they were rotating the power from wing to wing for periods of time. And and it was nothing like what was down at the coast for us at all. But we were, anxious to get back home and come take a look and all that. But it was something that I'll never forget, of course. And it's so funny. We came back into the area. I say funny by odd. These things. Well, let me say this. The city of Lake Charles, Louisiana, I've said this before, we spend time in. We go to theaters, we go to restaurants. It's a city that we liked, and we would rather go there than anywhere else near us. And it was absolutely just almost scraped off the map. This thing just absolutely decimated that city. And so I knew, being in the business that I'm in, when I came back in, I would have to go back to work immediately. And this thing it's so weird. Brings out the absolute best in a lot of people. You know, graciousness, being appreciative, and there's the other ones that they just turn into absolute selfish monsters, and it's just mind-boggling. And you have all this on top of, the virus thing, and there you have the fucking politics, which is absolutely just foolishness right now. And we go back to work, and I'm gonna say, like I said before, I deliver fuel to residential areas, and we ended up having to go into the city of Lake Charles, which is a total wreck. Lake Charles and a couple of cities north of it. Excuse me. And it didn't happen to me, but I know other drivers who would go into a neighborhood which you can barely get into because, I mean, the trees were just completely jackstrawed everywhere. There's wires hanging from, power wires hanging sometimes too low for you to get in, so you'd have to try and get out. But this is the thing that really blew my mind. Some of the guys went into these neighborhoods to, deliver fuel because people's generators would run on what we supply. There's these retards, these selfish pricks who were pissed off because they were, it's hot. Yeah, it's hot. I know it's hot. It's about 100 degrees every day down here. These trucks would go into these neighborhoods, and these fucking people one of them would decide to use their personal vehicle, to barricade the street and tell the driver, you're not leaving until you deliver to everyone on this street. That, I'm not going to say what I would do if it happened, because then I would have to, either put up or shut up. But just thinking about it pisses me off. And, at the time, you're having to prioritize, where you deliver fuel, what reason you have to deliver fuel. There are churches that are feeding people, helping people, and they need to keep running. And, these jackasses with these big homes and whole house generators, they want to burn, 30 gallons a day just to run the whole fucking house, because they want to be at the same comfort level they were before the storm. And it just doesn't work. This is a major natural disaster. And it's really, we've gotten some people, I've talked to some people that are really appreciative, and I've been on the phone with some people that just absolutely chewed me out. And I'm at the point now, I'm just numb. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand. Click, goodbye. But it makes me think, if ever, years ago they were talking about, if this nation ever experienced an EMP blast that just absolutely shut down the infrastructure, the power grids in this nation, there would be people, I believe, that would literally be biting each other's throats out to get what they needed by the way these people are acting in this destroyed area. And I know it's hard, but to do what some people are doing is just simply unbelievable. Really, it's just, I'm at the point right now where I don't give a shit and fuck it level is just at its worst. You go out there, you do what you can. It's never good enough. We could work around the clock and it still wouldn't be good enough. You can't do that. So it starts to affect you psychologically, because everybody has a story. Boo-hoo, we have a medical need, and you go to these places, these homes, and you don't see any evidence of anyone with a medical need. You do sometimes, but not always. So it's just been these last 2.5 weeks has been a nightmare. And I don't see the way the city of Lake Charles looks, it ending anytime soon, because it's just so destroyed. To get it back up and running, just to get power to people, is going to take a while. A good, I mean, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, which, when you say it out loud, it doesn't sound like a long time, but when you go into these areas and you try to work, you can barely get down some streets. You have to back up and start over and find another route to these people. It's really, it makes for a very long day. And it's just, it's heartbreaking. And sometimes you get to these people like I'm describing, and you're just like, dude, I don't care, whatever. Just shut up and go back into your, 3,000 square foot house. But it's just bringing out the worst in some people, and just pile that on top of the virus stuff. It's a tough time down here. Our city, where I live, is getting back to normal, which is good. I get to come home to a house that's cool, but we work, the way we're working right now, we only have one day off a week. And I've really, the last few days, have felt like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. You get up in the morning, it's the same thing over and over and over. And there's no end in sight. And it's tough. But I wanted to do a podcast this week. And that was another thing. I know it's Tuesday only because I'm recording. Whenever I'm not doing this, there's no sense of time out there. When everything's a wreck and you're under pressure to just do the most you can, we forget what day of the week it is. Saturday and Sunday doesn't feel like anything. It all just runs together. There's just nothing right now. Yesterday was, I don't know, was it Memorial or Labor Day? I don't even know. We worked, and it meant nothing. It means nothing right now. So, not to bring anybody down, I just wanted to share my experience. And this is another thing. When we're in the hotel, I'm saying everyone was well behaved, and they really were. But there's some things, these jackasses who, a lot of people nowadays, they walk around, and if you get a phone call on a cell phone, they talk while they're walking, cool. But they got these people who are these very loud phone people that they yell into the fucking phone. And, it's just like, I'm thinking, what do you think you're talking into? A fucking old tomato can with two strings, a string between the two of them? I mean, God's sake, you have a high-tech, high-powered handheld computer stuck to the side of your face, and you think you have to yell into that microphone? For God's sake, man. And that just, one of the things that sticks out to me, grocery stores, and hotels, you see that shit everywhere, and I'm just like, want to shake them. I'm like, it's a pretty good microphone on your phone. You can lower your voice and still be heard just fine. Nobody gives a shit about what you're talking about outside of who you're talking to. Can you tell I'm frustrated? I'm tired. I'm off today, so I have that at least. I can kind of recover. But other than that, things are great. The way people are acting right now between the virus and this hurricane down here, really, it makes me feel like I'm living in either like a Norman Lear or Mel Brooks movie. There was this movie, 1971, called Cold Turkey, and if anybody listening hasn't seen it, you should watch it. It's kind of a period film, but it was about this little town. It was written and directed by Norman Lear. And there was this company that, in the movie, that challenged a tobacco company, like, cigarette manufacturer, to, be trying to go up. They wanted to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, so they wanted to challenge this tobacco company that they could get an entire town or city of people to stop smoking cold turkey. And this was in the 70s, and I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 69, and I was, in the mid 70s. I, was a, young but old enough to see what was going on in the 70s. Everyone smoked everywhere. I remember there was, we'd get up before school, we'd all have breakfast together. You know, it was the typical shit you see in the movies. They'd be, you know, mom doing scrambled eggs, and we most of the time had fucking oatmeal, which I had to gag down because it was good for you, high in protein and vitamins. Dad was at the table. All you see was a newspaper with his right hand holding it and a smoldering cigarette. So they would smoke and drink coffee and eat all at the same time. But everyone smoked in the 70s. It was just, and you know, we're sitting there at the breakfast table getting that good old secondhand smoke. And then later, when we got older, they wondered why we were stealing their fucking cigarettes. So, but there was another time when my parents were entertaining some friends and relatives. They would play card games and whatever. And I remember they were sitting around in the living room just visiting. And back then, you would get Coca-Cola in the kind of greenish clear bottles. That's the way it came. And we weren't allowed to have Coke very much because it was, you know, high in caffeine and sugar, and it would make us hyperactive. And then this was after supper time, so we weren't allowed. And I remember they were sitting around talking, and I was playing on the floor with one of my toys or whatever. And one of the people that were there set down their Coke bottle on the floor beside the sofa, and it had like a third of the bottle left, looked like with cola. And stupid kid, you know, I mean, I was a kid, what did I know? And just do stupid stuff. I'm like, well, if they're not going to drink it, I can get me a good little shot of Coca-Cola, and they would never know. So I grabbed this bottle, you know, sitting there real quiet, and picked it up. And when I took a swig, what I didn't know before was this person was using the Coke bottle and the little bit that was left in it as a fucking ashtray. And there were cigarette butts and ashes, and I can still smell it in my nostrils to this day, that smell of tobacco and ashes. It was so disgusting. And I did smoking for a few years when I was a young adult, but quit eventually. But that thing, I think of it at least once a year, that pungent tobacco smell in my nostrils, because I took a swig and I swallowed some of it, and it was so it makes me want to gag right now just talking about it. But anyway, back to cold turkey. There was this company challenged the town to quit smoking cold turkey, which means you're smoking today and tomorrow you quit smoking. And these people, this whole town, started to go in withdrawals, and they were at each other's throats, kicking dogs, freaking fighting in the streets. Any little thing would set them off. And that's pretty much how it is down here right now. I went to a convenience store a few days ago, and there was this homeless guy that I'd seen around town. Pushing a shopping cart around sometimes. And at times, even this time of year, he'd be walking down the sidewalk or the side of a highway with a long sleeve black fleece hoodie with the hood over his head. And I'm not making fun of the guy, because I know I've been around long enough to know that, you know, homeless people, there's a story. Some of it is, sometimes it's because of substance abuse. And there are times, you know, I've seen documentaries and read stories about homeless people that sometimes it's by no fault of their own. Bad business, a company collapses, they lose everything because they're so far indebted to, you know, their lifestyle. But anyway, this guy I see around town quite a bit, and he actually looks pretty healthy, and his clothes are never like dirty. And I've walked by him before, and you know, when people live outside, they sleep outside every day. You know, and I'm not making fun. Again, they smell. This guy, I don't get that from him, and I see him at this store pretty regularly. So, but anyway, this day I walked in. I was wearing my mask, and just to make the point of my level of I don't give a shit. I'm not a confrontational person at all. You know, I'll do my best to avoid it. I don't go looking for trouble. I'm not some kind of Billy badass that will, yeah, I'll take you on and whip your ass, that kind of stuff. But I was walking into the store, I had my mask on, and he was outside the door, the storefront, it's all glass, screaming and hollering at someone inside the store. Said, "You fucking bitch, get your pussy ass out of here and, talk to me like a man." And I'm like, oh, great, he's having a bad day. And I walked right by him to open the door, and he looked at me, and we made eye contact, and he said, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And I didn't even hesitate. I just said, "Not much," and kept walking in. And he was screaming and hollering at me now when I was walking in the store. "Come back and say that to my face, you." And I'm like, what the hell? And then the guy inside the store, he's just playing crazy. And I think he really is playing crazy because the fact that he's challenging people, but he's still aware enough that he's not allowed inside the store. If you don't know anything, if you're really nuts, you're just people do irrational things, and he's gonna come into the store and do. So he knows what's going on. He's just being an asshole that day. And one of the guys in the store said, he asked for money from some people, and they said they didn't have any, and he got pissed. So, but any other time before, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if that would have happened, I probably would have just made a wide circle around him to avoid that. And now I'm just like, fuck it. I don't give a shit. I'll say whatever I want, and damn the consequences. And it's not like I'm looking for trouble, but it's really just been a tough year with everything. God, it's exhausting. But I wanted to do a podcast today to try and feel normal. And so that's where we are. As far as politics goes, I swear to God, it's a Mel Brooks movie. I mean, you got Joe Biden, and if you support him, good, that's your opinion and good for you. I support Donald Trump, and I don't, bicker and argue for him, because the whole fucking thing is a mess. It is. It's a mess. Or is mine? There was this. It makes me think of Blazing Saddles. And if you've never seen Blazing Saddles, you need to do yourself the favor of watching it. It's one of the most fantastic comedies, and I think that one was also from the 70s. But Mel Brooks was a genius in his writing and directing. And if you don't know about Blazing Saddles, it's a movie that was made in a time where people didn't get offended at the drop of a hat. And he made this movie. It was kind of a Western about a town called Rock Ridge who needed a new sheriff, and the governor sent in a black man to be the sheriff. And at that time, they were still building railroads, and it's just, you need to see it, or at least go to YouTube, find some clips of it. And I guarantee you see a few clips, you'll go find the movie to watch. It's really hysterically funny. But Mel Brooks was smart enough to include just about every damn demographic and group in the movie to offend, even Jewish people, and he's a Jewish guy. I mean, the whites, blacks, Jewish people, the KKK, Nazis, and probably some more that I can't remember. But when there's some parallels that I see, anyway, in my sick mind of what's happening now, and some of the scenes in the movie. And so I thought I would point them out. George Soros, supposedly, I can't, prove it, document it, whatever, but everyone's saying he's the guy who funds Antifa. I don't know whether they're saying he funds the Black Lives Matter movement, but as far as Antifa goes, there was a scene in Blazing Saddles with Harvey Korman where he was describing to his assistant what he wanted to get. There was a group of people that he wanted to get into town to create chaos and make it impossible for the sheriff to succeed.
Of course. An army of the worst dregs ever to soil the face of the West. Taggart.
Yes, sir?
I've decided to launch an attack that will reduce Rock Ridge to ashes.
What do you want me to do, sir?
I want you to round up every vicious criminal and gunslinger in the West. Take this down. I want rustlers, cutthroats, murderers, bounty hunters, desperados, mugs, pugs, thugs, nitwits, halfwits, dimwits, vipers, snipers, con men, Indian agents, Mexican bandits, muggers, buggerers, bushwhackers, hornswagglers, horse thieves, bull dykes, train robbers, bank robbers, ass kickers, shit kickers, and Methodists.
Could you repeat that, sir?
So Antifa was born. That's right, Antifa was created, or the idea was created in Blazing Saddles, thanks to Mel Brooks. Thanks, Mel. But then you have the politicians in this country who can't agree on, even if the fucking sun is shining right now, and their level of cooperation is just retarded. It's just, it's discouraging, man. There's not much good happening as far as politics and our representatives and what they do. It's a bunch of clowns. It's just complete fucking ridiculous. It's a joke. It's just tomfoolery. And I swear, this whole political season really is just Mel Brooks. He would have been proud to write something like this. Probably would have won him all kinds of awards because of just how stupid it is. I mean, our politicians get together and they can't they can't agree on anything. They don't get anything accomplished.
We gotta protect our phony baloney job, gentlemen. We must do something about this immediately. Immediately. Harumph, 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 harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Give the governor harumph. Harumph!
You watch your ass.
Meeting is adjourned.
It is?
No, you say that, Governor.
What?
Meeting is adjourned.
It is?
And then you have Joe Biden, who comes out of his hidey hole every once in a while whenever his handlers and whoever else allow him to, and he completely fucks up an interview or a speech or something.
Hey, where are the white women at?
I was a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'll rip off your head and eat spaghetti out of your neck.
Or Joe Biden could be also the old revenuer town crier at the beginning of the movie Blazing Saddles. If you look up anything about Blazing Saddles, look up that clip. The opening sequence is one of the funniest goddamn things you're ever going to see.
It's your coming.
Ring out the church bells. Strike up the band.
Hey, the sheriff is on Nick.
What are you saying? The sheriff is near.
No, got a flaming thing running. The sheriff is on Nick.
I really wish I could go back in time as an adult, if I could, to the 70s, because it was such a unique time. I mean, every decade has its own unique qualities, but the 70s just seemed so honest, not quite as hunky-dory as the 50s, but the 70s just seemed like such a time of, well, people had fun and didn't get pissed off about every little word that came out of someone's mouths. So please don't get bent out of shape about that clip. It's a really great movie. You have to watch it for it to be put in context and understand what Mel Brooks was doing.
Gentlemen, please rest your sphincters.
So, that is my take on the last 2.5 weeks on current affairs, in my opinion, in my twisted view of what's happening right now. And I will still be doing my podcast every other week because my work schedule is crazier than it was before the hurricane. So I'd like to thank the guys at Cinescape Media for hosting me. I really appreciate it, and please go to Cinescape Media and browse their other great content. And also don't forget to check out Tom Velas's podcast called The Paranormal Patriot. So everybody, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks? You sound like a parakeet there. 2 weeks? 2 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks. It's amazing.
Amazing nothing. It'll be a regular miracle.